I'm in South Africa with the Commonwealth War Graves Foundation for the unveiling of the Cape Town Labour Corps Memorial, which was today unveiled by Her Royal Highness, the Princess Royal. And this memorial tells the story of more than 1,700 members of the African Labour Corps who served during the Great War but aren't remembered until now, with this monument that pays tribute to their service. And I'm joined by Dean Jay, the architect involved with creating this. Dean, tell us a bit about conceptually how you came up with this memorial, which is very different to memorials that we often see.
But the concept is really simple. We wanted to have one marker for every casualty, and specifically a separate marker, rather than a list of names on a wall, and rather than a memorial like the WW1 statue. We felt the respectfulness of an individual marker was appropriate. And then the posts themselves come from a metaphor of the last post and the imagery of a battlefield during the First World War, where trees and forests were stripped of leaves and branches and look not dissimilar to this. And we feel as well that the use of timber has an Africanness about it, that it's an appropriate response as a memorial for an African people.
Thank you. And we could talk a bit more about the timber with Tom Lowe, who was the craftsman involved with this building. Tom, tell us a bit about the wood that you used, but also what's underneath the wood.
So it's an African hardwood, and we wanted something that's going to last as long as possible. And we explored a whole variety of different species of tree, and we went very far into the sustainability behind how those trees are forested. And a lot of the other viable options for timber that can last outside were just unsustainably harvested. They would go into rainforest, chop down a tree, and not replant it. Where we actually made sure that whatever trees were chopped down for this project, we had the sawmills do a custom cut for us.
Walk a little bit around.
They replanted based on what we used.
And also it fits in quite neatly with the park as well, with the trees that you've got around here.
Exactly, and as Dean was saying, he wanted an individual post, an individual marker for them, and every piece of timber is different. It adds that element of individualization to them.
Tom, thank you so much for taking us through. Each individual post, as Tom mentioned, tells the story of a member of the African Labour Corps. And what's really important is the names that are on here are reflective of men who served and died, but whose stories aren't often told. And it was a significant amount of research that went in with local historians alongside the Commonwealth War Graves Commission to ensure that their stories are remembered. I can speak to Sonwa Bile, who was involved with the research side. Someone tell us a bit about how important it is with researching the names of these individuals that each of these posts represents.
First, it wasn't easy to find them. Some of them it wasn't easy to find. But when I finally found them and got to their homes and found the descendants who were to some degree lost as to what had happened to their forefathers, I saw that it made them happy that now it came to the truth of the story of what had happened to them. Because for some families, it was there in the fading memory that there was a man known as Besengile Delihlazo who gave birth to our grandfather, and our grandfather gave birth to our father, and here we are. But they had no idea what had happened to that Besengile Delihlazo, for an example. Now, for us to come to them, it sort of brought some sort of closure to know what happened. Some of them had no idea where they come from.
So you have that oral tradition of passing on stories or indeed memories.
Yes.
And now you've got this physical connection for families, for descendants, to make that connection with the names that are emblazoned on here, but also the year that they died.
year that
because
they
of the research you
died.
did. That must be something
Yeah,
very
that is
special
that
for
is
people.
that is very that is becomes very very important. Went to homes where the graveyard is not shared with the village. Each family has on their land the piece of land they put aside for graves. That's for them is how it becomes important to know where the graves are. But in this case, the graves are not available.
Yeah.
But the least that can be done it is to at least know when they died, and that brings closer the closure in that regard.
Thank you so much, Summer, for explaining that, but also the research that has gone on to finding these names and individuals, because each individual post here tells a story. More than 1,700 members of the African Labour Corps served and died during the Great War, but not just between 1914 and 18. This memorial remembers those all the way up to 1921, which is a reminder that the war did continue on in some parts of the world. So if you are ever visiting South Africa or indeed here in Cape Town, come by to the company's gardens, see this monument and the stories that are emblazoned on these posts, and ensure that these individuals are remembered forevermore.